The stars looked cold and distant through the thick glass windows of Nexus Station. Jake Morrison stood in the security office, watching the empty space around them. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he did not care. Something felt wrong. Today, Captain Lisa Hamilton walked into the room. Her uniform was neat and clean, like always. She carried a data pad in her hand and looked tired. The peace talks had been going on for 3 months now, and everyone was getting stressed. Any news from the talks? Jake asked without turning around. Same as yesterday. The Council wants the Kreks to stop their attacks. The Kreks want the Council to give them 3 star systems. Nobody wants to give up anything. Lisa sat down at her desk and rubbed her eyes. I think we will be here for another 3 months. Jake nodded. He had seen this before. Different aliens, same problems. Everyone wanted something, but nobody wanted to pay the price for peace. The humans were here to keep everyone safe while they talked. It was not an exciting job, but it was important. The communication system made a soft beeping sound. Jake walked over to check it. A message was coming in from the long-range sensors. He read it quickly, then read it again to make sure he understood. Lisa, we have a problem. What kind of problem? The big kind. There is a Kreks warship coming toward us. It will be here in 2 hours. Lisa stood up fast. Which ship? Do we know who is commanding it? Jake looked at the sensor data again. The ship's identification came up on his screen. His face did not change, but inside he felt something cold and sharp. It is the Bloodfang. Warlord Zekther is commanding it. Lisa's face went pale. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Zekther. He was the most dangerous Kreks commander. His ship had destroyed dozens of Council vessels. He had killed thousands of people in his raids. And now he was coming here. We need to evacuate the station, Lisa said. Get everyone to the escape pods. Wait, Jake said. Let me think about this. Think about what? Zekther is a killer. He does not care about diplomatic law. He will murder everyone on this station just for fun. Jake walked back to the window. The space outside looked the same as before, but now he knew death was coming toward them. He thought about Zekther and what the warlord wanted. Why would he come here? What did he hope to gain? He wants to stop the peace talks, Jake said slowly. If he kills the diplomats, the war will continue. His people will keep fighting, and he will keep being important. So we evacuate, Lisa said again. We get everyone out of here before he arrives. No, if we run, he wins. The peace talks will fail. The war will go on for years. More people will die. Lisa stared at him. Jake, this is not the time to be a hero. Zekther has killed more people than any other Kreks in history. His ship has enough weapons to destroy this entire station. I know. Jake picked up his coffee cup and drank the cold liquid. It tasted bitter, but it helped him think. But if we stay, maybe we can end this war today. The communication system beeped again. This time, it was an emergency message from the main conference room. Jake answered it. Security, this is Ambassador Thyron. We have received word that the criminal Zekther is approaching. We demand immediate protection. Call in human military vessels at once. Jake looked at Lisa. She shook her head. The nearest human fleet is 4 days away. Even if we sent the message now, they would not get here in time. Ambassador, this is Security Chief Morrison. We are aware of the situation. Please continue with your scheduled activities. Continue? Are you insane? We must evacuate immediately. The station is secure, Ambassador. There is no need to panic. Jake ended the communication. Lisa looked at him like he had lost his mind. The station is secure? Jake, we have 12 security officers and some basic defensive weapons. Zekther has a warship with enough firepower to level the city. Numbers are not everything, Jake said. Sometimes the person who wins is the one who thinks better, not the one who shoots better. Lisa sat down again. She had worked with Jake for 2 years. He was always calm, always thinking ahead. But this seemed like suicide. "What is your plan?" Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen this situation before and knew how it would end. "I am going to talk to him." "Talk to him? Jake, he is a mass murderer. He does not talk. He kills. Everyone talks if you know how to make them listen. The question is what you say and how you say it." The hours passed slowly. Jake spent the time reading everything he could find about Zekther. The warlord was born on a harsh world where only the strong survived. He had fought his way to power by killing his rivals. He ruled through fear and violence. But there was something else in the files that interested Jake. Zekther had never lost a battle. In 20 years of fighting, he had never been defeated. That made him confident, maybe too confident. And confident people sometimes made mistakes. When the sensors showed the Bloodfang approaching, Jake was ready. He had sent all the diplomats to the secure areas of the station. Only he remained in the main conference room. "Jake, it is not too late to change your mind," Lisa said through the communication system. "We can still evacuate." "No, this ends today, one way or another." The Bloodfang docked with the station. Jake could feel the vibration through the floor as the heavy warship connected to the docking port. Soon, Zekther would be here. And then they would see who was really the better hunter. The main conference room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air system. Jake Morrison sat at the large table in the center of the room. Papers and datapads were spread out in front of him. He looked like he was doing normal work, but his ears were listening for footsteps. He did not have to wait long. Heavy boots echoed in the corridor outside. The sound got louder and closer. Jake did not look up from his reading. He turned a page in his report and made a note with his pen. The doors to the conference room exploded open. Zekther stormed in with 6 of his best warriors behind him. The Krex warlord was bigger than most humans, with thick muscles and dark green scales that covered his body. His eyes were yellow and cold, like a snake's eyes. Sharp teeth showed when he opened his mouth. The warriors spread out around the room, their weapons ready. They expected to find scared diplomats hiding under tables. Instead, they found one human reading papers. Jake did not look up. He finished reading the paragraph he was on, then made another note. Only then did he glance at the intruders. "You are late," he said calmly. "The lunch break started 10 minutes ago." Zekther stared at him. In all his years of fighting, no one had ever spoken to him this way. When he entered a room, people screamed or begged for mercy. They did not complain about his timing. "Where are the others?" Zekther demanded. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I told you. They are having lunch." Jake went back to his papers. "The food here is not bad. You should try the soup." One of the warriors stepped forward. "Lord Zekther, should we search the station?" "No." Zekther held up his hand. His yellow eyes never left Jake's face. "This human is trying to trick us. He thinks we are stupid." Jake looked up. Again, "I do not think you are stupid. If you were stupid, you would not have survived this long. But I do think you are making a mistake." "What mistake?" "You came here to stop the peace talks. But the peace talks are not happening right now. They are on hold while everyone eats. So you are wasting your time." Zekther's scales began to change color. When Krex got angry, their scales turned darker. The warlord's scales were becoming almost black. "I could kill you right now," he said. His hand moved to the weapon on his belt. "Yes, you could," Jake agreed. "But then what?" "You would have to explain to the council why you murdered their chief negotiator. You would have to explain why you attacked a neutral station. Your rebellion would lose any chance of getting support from other species. Zector's hand stopped moving. The human was right, and that made him even angrier. You think you are smart, Zector said, but you are just one human on a small station. I have a warship with enough weapons to destroy this place 100 times over. That is true, Jake said, but destroying the station would not help you. It would just make you look like a terrorist instead of a revolutionary. I am not a terrorist. I am a warrior fighting for my people's freedom. Are you? Jake put down his pen and leaned back in his chair. Because from where I sit, you look like someone who attacks supply ships and runs away when real warships show up. The other warriors made angry sounds. No one insulted Zector and lived. But their commander held up his hand again. You know nothing about me, human. I know more than you think. Jake picked up a datapad and started reading from it. Zector, son of Vector, born on Krex Prime 43 years ago. Joined the Krex Defense Force at age 16. Rose through the ranks by killing his superior officers. Started his rebellion 3 years ago after the Council refused to give the Krex Empire better trade agreements. Zector's eyes narrowed. How? Do you know all that? I read files. It is part of my job. Jake put the datapad down. I also know that you have attacked 47 supply ships, destroyed 6 Council outposts, and killed over 3,000 people. Very impressive numbers. You mock me. No, I am telling you the truth. You are very good at killing people and breaking things, but you are not very good at winning wars. The room went completely silent. Even the air system seemed to stop humming. Zector's warriors looked at each other nervously. No one had ever told their leader that he was failing. Explain, Zector said. His voice was so quiet, it was almost a whisper. Jake stood up slowly. He was not as big as Zector, but he did not look afraid. You have been fighting for 3 years. In that time, how many star systems have you captured? How many Council fleets? Have you destroyed? How many species have joined your cause? Zector did not answer. The answer is 0, Jake continued. You have not captured 1 star system. You have not destroyed 1 Council fleet. And no other species wants to join a rebellion led by someone who only knows how to attack supply ships. We are gathering strength, Zector said, but his voice was not as confident as before. No, you are not. You are running out of time. Every day you continue this rebellion, more species decide that the Krex are just pirates who need to be stopped. Every attack makes you more enemies and fewer friends. Jake walked around the table toward Zector. The warriors raised their weapons, but Jake ignored them. He stopped just a few feet from the warlord. You want to know why I'm not afraid of you? Jake asked. Yes, because you are not the real enemy. You are just the symptom. The real enemy is the problem that created you, and that problem can be solved without firing a single shot. Zector's scales were changing color again, but this time they were getting lighter. When Krex were confused or uncertain, their scales became pale. What problem? The problem that your people feel ignored by the Council. The problem that they think violence is the only way to get attention. The problem that they believe someone like you when you tell them that war is better than peace. Jake's voice was still calm, but there was something else in it now. Something that made the warriors step back. You asked me why I do not run, Jake said. So let me ask you the same question. Why do you not run? Zector stared at Jake Morrison. The question hung in the air between them like a weapon that had been drawn, but not yet fired. The warlord's yellow eyes showed confusion for the first time since he had entered the room. What do you mean? Zector asked. I mean exactly what I said. Why do you not run? You have committed enough crimes to face execution on 50 different worlds. Every government in this sector has put a price on your head. The Council has sent 12 different fleets to hunt you down. You could take your ship and disappear into the outer rim. Find some quiet planet and live the rest of your life in peace. But you do not. Why? Zekthar's warriors looked at their commander. They had never thought about this question before. Running away was not something warriors did, but the human was right. They could run if they wanted to. I do not run because I am a warrior, Zekthar said. But his voice was not as strong as before. No, Jake said quietly. That is not the real reason. Then what is the real reason? Jake walked back to his chair and sat down. He picked up his coffee cup and took a sip. The liquid was still cold, but he did not seem to care. The real reason is that you are afraid, Jake said. The warriors made angry sounds. One of them stepped forward, his weapon raised. But Zekthar held up his hand to stop him. Afraid of what? The warlord asked. You are afraid of what would happen if you ran. You are afraid of what humanity would do if we had to chase you. Zekthar's scales began to change color again. They were getting darker, but not from anger this time. This was a different kind of darkness, the darkness of fear. Humans do not scare me, Zekthar said, but his voice was shaking just a little. They should, Jake replied. Do you know why other species make peace with us? It is not because we are stronger than them. It is not because we have better weapons. It is because they have learned something important about humanity. What? They have learned that humans do not fight wars the same way other species do. When most species fight, they fight until they get tired. Then they stop and talk about peace. When humans fight, we do not get tired. We get systematic. Jake stood up and walked to the wall. There was a screen there showing a star map. He touched it, and the display changed to show human territory. Let me tell you about the Altarian War, Jake said. 20 years ago, the Altarians thought they were strong enough to take one of our colonies. They had better ships and more soldiers. They thought it would be an easy victory. The star map changed to show the Altarian home system. It was marked with red symbols. The attack lasted 3 days. They killed 60,000 human colonists. Then they went home and celebrated their victory. They thought the war was over. Jake touched the screen again. The map showed human fleet movements over the next several years. But the war was not over. It was just beginning. We did not send one fleet to attack them. We sent 50 fleets. We did not try to take back our colony. We decided to take their entire civilization. Zekthar was listening carefully now. His warriors had lowered their weapons without realizing it. The Altarians fought back, of course. They were good fighters. But they did not understand what they were fighting against. They thought they were fighting human soldiers. They were wrong. They were fighting human civilization. The map showed more fleet movements. Human ships were everywhere in Altarian space. We did not just attack their military bases. We attacked their factories, their farms, their schools, their hospitals. We destroyed everything they had built in 1,000 years of civilization. When they tried to make peace, we said no. When they tried to surrender, we said no. When they begged us to stop, we said no. Jake's voice was still calm, but there was something cold in it now. Something that made the temperature in the room feel lower. The war lasted 40 years. By the end, there were no more Altarians. Their worlds were empty. Their ships were scrap metal. Their cities were ruins. We had not just defeated them. We had erased them from existence. Zekthar's scales were very pale now. You committed genocide. No, Jake said. We committed war. Total war. The kind of war that humans fight. When someone pushes us too far. He touched the screen again. Now it showed another star system. Or maybe you would prefer to hear about the Zephyrian pirates. They thought they could raid our shipping lanes and get away with it. They were fast ships with good pilots. They hit our cargo vessels and disappeared before our patrols could catch them. The screen showed the movements of pirate ships attacking human freighters. This went on for 2 years. The pirates killed thousands of our people and stole millions of credits worth of goods. The other species told us to accept it. They said piracy was just part of doing business in space. Jake's smile was back, but it was not a friendly smile. But humans do not accept piracy. We do not accept theft. We do not accept murder. So we decided to solve the problem permanently. The screen changed to show human hunter-killer fleets spreading across the galaxy. We did not just hunt the pirates who had attacked us. We hunted every Zephyrian pirate in the galaxy. Every single one. It took us 15 years, but we found them all. We tracked them to their secret bases, their hidden worlds, their family homes. We did not stop until every Zephyrian pirate was dead or in prison. Zector was staring at the screen. How many pirates were there? Over 10,000, spread across 300 star systems. It did not matter. We found them all. That is impossible. The galaxy is too big. The galaxy is big, Jake agreed. But humans are patient. We do not give up. We do not get tired. We do not stop hunting until the hunt is over. He turned away from the screen and looked directly at Zector. That is why you do not run. Because you know that if you run, if you force us to chase you, there will be no escape. We will hunt you across the galaxy if we have to. We will search every world, every station, every ship. We will never stop looking for you. Zector's hand moved to his weapon again, but it was shaking now. You are trying to scare me. No, Jake said. I am trying to save you. Because right now, you still have a choice. You can end this rebellion peacefully. You can face a tribunal and probably spend the rest of your life in prison. It will not be a good life, but it will be a life. And if I do not choose prison? Jake's expression did not change. Then you will not be fighting a rebellion anymore. You will be fighting a human pacification campaign, and those always end the same way. How do they end? With empty space where your worlds used to be. The silence in the conference room was complete. Even the air system seemed to have stopped working. Zector stood frozen, his yellow eyes locked on Jake Morrison's face. The human's words echoed in his mind like a death sentence. You are lying. Zector said finally. Humans are not monsters. You follow laws. You have ethics. You would not destroy entire civilizations. Jake walked back to his chair and sat down. He picked up one of his data pads and began scrolling through it. You are right about one thing, Jake said. We do follow laws, but you need to understand something about human laws. They are not the same as your laws. What do you mean? When most species make laws, they are trying to control behavior. When humans make laws, we are trying to define acceptable targets. Jake found what he was looking for on the data pad. He turned it around so Zector could see the screen. This is Section 12 of the Human Military Code. It defines the conditions under which total war may be declared. Would you like me to read it to you? Zector did not answer, but his scales were getting paler. Total war may be declared when an enemy commits acts of mass murder against human civilians, threatens human territory with weapons of mass destruction, or engages in systematic attacks on human commerce with the intent to cause economic collapse. Jake looked up from the datapad. Your raids on our supply ships qualify under the third condition. You have been systematically attacking human commerce for 3 years. That means the Council has the legal right to declare total war against the Krex Empire. But they have not done that. No, they have not. Do you know why? Zector shook his head. Because I asked them not to. The warlord stared at him. You asked them not to? Yes. I told them that total war was not necessary. I told them that this situation could be resolved through negotiation. I told them that you were a reasonable being who would eventually see that peace was better than war. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Zector's warship docked to the station. It looked powerful and dangerous, but Jake was not impressed by it. But my patience is running out, Jake continued. The council is starting to ask questions. They want to know why this rebellion is still going on. They want to know why we have not solved this problem yet. And what do you tell them? I tell them that diplomacy takes time. I tell them that rushing into war would be a mistake. I tell them that every problem can be solved without violence if you are willing to work hard enough. Jake turned back to face Jector. But there is a limit to how long they will listen to me. And we are getting close to that limit. How close? Very close. The council meets again in 2 weeks. If there is no progress in these peace talks, they will vote on a military solution. And if they vote for a military solution, it will not be a small military solution. It will be a final military solution. Zector's warriors were looking at each other nervously. They had come here expecting to fight security guards and diplomats. They had not expected to hear about the destruction of entire civilizations. You are trying to frighten me into surrendering, Zector said. No, Jake replied. I am trying to help you understand the situation. You think you are fighting a war against the council. But you are not. You are fighting a war against time. Time? Yes. Every day that passes, more humans get tired of this conflict. Every raid you make, more humans decide that negotiation is not working. Every attack on our ships, more humans ask why we are not doing what we do best. What do you do best? Jake's smile was back. It was the cold smile that made the room feel smaller. We solve problems permanently. He walked back to the star map on the wall. With a touch of his finger, the display changed to show human military bases throughout the galaxy. Do you see these symbols? Jake asked. Each one represents a human military base. There are over 3,000 of them. Each base has enough firepower to destroy a small planet. The map zoomed in on one section of space. This is the Kepler sector. It used to be controlled by the Altarians. Now it is controlled by humans. Do you know what happened to the Altarians? You said they were destroyed. That is correct. But do you know how they were destroyed? Zector did not answer. They were destroyed by exactly 47 human fleets. Each fleet had exactly 200 ships. Each ship carried exactly 50,000 soldiers. The entire operation took exactly 40 years and cost exactly 12 trillion credits. Jake's voice was getting quieter, but somehow it seemed to fill the room. We kept detailed records of everything. Every shot fired, every life lost, every credit spent. We documented it all because we wanted to remember the cost of total war. We wanted to make sure we never had to do it again. But you did do it again, Zector said. You said you destroyed the Zephyrian pirates. Yes, but that was different. The pirates were scattered across many systems. It was more like a police action than a war. We only needed 12 fleets for that operation. Jake touched the screen. Again, now it showed the Krex home system. If we have to deal with your rebellion militarily, we will use 24 fleets. Twice as many as we used for the pirates. Half as many as we used for the Altarians. Just enough to make sure the job gets done quickly and completely. Zector stared at the screen. His home system looked very small, surrounded by the symbols of human military bases. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand what will happen if you leave this room without making a deal. You will fly back to your base and tell your followers that you faced down the humans. You will think you have won a victory, but you will be wrong. Jake walked closer to Zekther. The warlord was bigger and stronger, but he stepped back. Within hours of your departure, my report will be transmitted to human command. Within days, that report will be presented to the council. Within weeks, the vote will be taken. And then the 24 fleets will begin moving toward Krex space. And then there will be no more rebellion. There will be no more raids. There will be no more Krex Empire. There will only be empty space where your worlds used to be. Zekther's hand was shaking as he reached for his weapon. You cannot threaten me like this. I am not threatening you, Jake said calmly. I am explaining cause and effect. If you choose to continue this rebellion, these are the consequences. If you choose to surrender, there are different consequences. What? Consequences? You will be arrested and sent to trial. You will probably be convicted of war crimes. You will spend the rest of your life in prison. But you will be alive. Your people will be alive. Your worlds will still exist. Jake walked back to his chair and sat down. He picked up his pen and began writing on one of his papers. The choice is yours, Zekther. You can end this war today, or you can choose to find out what happens when humans stop being patient. The warlord looked at his warriors. They were supposed to be the most dangerous fighters in the Krex military, but they looked scared now. They had heard the stories about human total war. They had thought the stories were exaggerated. Now they were not so sure. What if I choose to run? Zekther asked quietly. Jake looked up from his writing. His expression was mild, almost bored. Then you would learn why the galaxy calls us the patient hunters. We do not chase prey because we are fast. We chase it because we never stop. Even if it takes years, even if it takes decades, even if it takes centuries, we will find you. Jake went back to his writing. Why would I chase you twice? Once to catch you, and once to make sure you never run again. The conference room felt smaller now. Zekther stood in the center with his 6 warriors around him, but they all looked trapped. The humans sitting at the table had built invisible walls around them with nothing but words. Jake. Morrison finished writing his notes and put down his pen. He looked at Zekther with the same calm expression he had worn throughout their conversation. You have been quiet for a long time, Jake said. Are you thinking about my offer? You call it an offer, Zekther replied, but it sounds like a threat. It is both. That is how diplomacy works. I offer you a choice between 2 futures. One future is unpleasant but survivable. The other future is final. Zekther walked to the window and looked out at his ship. The Bloodfang was his pride and joy. He had captured it from a council admiral in his first major victory. It had been his home for 3 years of war. If I surrender, what happens to my crew? They will be arrested and tried individually. Some will go to prison. Some will be released if they can prove they were forced to follow you. None will be executed unless they are found guilty of personal war crimes. And if I do not surrender, then they will die with you when the fleets come. Zekther's reflection in the window looked older than it had that morning. The weight of 3 years of war was showing on his face. You make it sound like I have already lost. You lost the moment you started this rebellion, Jake said. You just do not know it yet. How can you be so sure? Jake stood up and walked to join Zekther at the window. Because I have studied your species. I know how Krex think. I know what you value. I know what you fear. Tell me, Krex values strength above all else. You respect power and despise weakness. Your entire culture is built around the idea that the strong should rule the weak. Zekther nodded. That is true. But you have made a mistake. You think strength means the ability to destroy things. You think power means the ability to kill people. You think victory means making your enemies afraid of you. Those things are not strength. No, they are just violence. Strength is the ability to create something that lasts. Power is the ability to make others choose to follow you. Victory is solving problems so completely that they never come back. Jake pointed at the Bloodfang. Your ship can destroy a space station. That is violence, but it cannot build a space station. It cannot create trade routes. It cannot make people want to live in peace. Ships are not supposed to build things. Ships are supposed to fight. Human ships build things all the time. They carry supplies to colonies. They rescue people from disasters. They protect trade routes so that merchants can feed their families. Fighting is just one small part of what they do. Zekther was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. You think I am a failure. I think you are someone who has confused tactics with strategy. You are very good at winning battles, but you have no idea how to win wars. Explain. Jake turned away from the window and faced the warlord. Wars are not won by destroying the enemy. Wars are won by convincing the enemy that continued fighting is more expensive than making peace. I have made fighting expensive for the Council. I have destroyed millions of credits worth of ships and cargo. Yes, you have. But you have also made peace impossible. Every attack you make, every person you kill, every ship you destroy, makes it harder for reasonable people to argue for negotiation. Jake walked back to his chair and sat down. 3 years ago, there were many people in the Council who supported better trade agreements for the Kreks. They wanted to give you what you were asking for. But then you started killing people. We had to fight. No one was listening to us. No one is listening to you now either. But now it is because they are afraid of what you will do next, not because they do not care about your problems. Zekther's scales were changing color again. They were getting darker, but it was not the dark of anger. It was the dark of understanding. You are saying that my rebellion has made things worse for my people. Much worse. Before you started this war, the Kreks had friends in the Council. Species that respected your culture and wanted to help you. Now you have no friends. Everyone sees you as pirates and terrorists. But we are fighting for freedom. No, you are fighting for revenge. There is a difference. Jake picked up another datapad and began reading from it. Do you know what the Council was prepared to offer the Kreks Empire before you started your rebellion? What? 3 star systems, independent trade rights, and a permanent seat on the Council Defense Committee. Everything your people wanted. Zekther stared at him. That is impossible. The Council would never give us that much. They were going to. The vote was scheduled for the week after you attacked your first supply ship. But then you attacked, and everything changed. Jake put the datapad down. The Council members who supported the deal said it was impossible to negotiate with terrorists. The species that wanted to help you said they could not support murderers. In one day, you destroyed 3 years of careful diplomacy. I did not. No. Of course you did not know. You never asked. You never tried to find out what was possible through peaceful means. You just assumed that violence was the only way to get what you wanted. Zekther walked away from the window and began pacing around the room. His warriors watched him nervously. They had never seen their commander look so uncertain. Even if that is true, it is too late now. Too much has happened. Too many people have died. It is not too late. But it is close to being too late. What do you mean? Jake stood up and walked to the wall screen. He touched it, and it showed a calendar. In 11 days, the Council will vote on the military solution to your rebellion. If you surrender now, I can convince them to delay that vote. I can argue that diplomacy is still possible. And if I do not surrender, then in 11 days, the 24 fleets will begin moving toward Krek space. In 30 days, They will arrive at your home system. In 31 days, there will be no more Krex Empire. Zector stopped pacing. You seem very sure about this timeline. I should be. I helped write it. The room went silent again. Zector's warriors looked at each other with growing fear. They were beginning to understand that they were not talking to a diplomat. They were talking to someone much more dangerous. Who are you? Zector asked quietly. My name is Jake Morrison. I am the Chief Security Officer for this diplomatic mission. I am also a retired admiral in the Human Space Navy. I am also the author of the Morrison Doctrine. Zector's scales went completely white. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Morrison Doctrine. It was the human military theory that had ended the Altarian War. It was the strategy that had destroyed the Zephyrian pirates. You wrote the Doctrine of Total War. I wrote a paper about how to end wars quickly and completely. Other people called it the Doctrine of Total War. Jake walked closer to Zector. Do you know what the Morrison Doctrine says about rebellions like yours? No. It says that rebellions succeed when the cost of defeating them becomes higher than the cost of giving the rebels what they want. It also says that rebellions fail when the cost of giving them what they want becomes higher than the cost of destroying them completely. And which category does my rebellion fall into? That depends on what you do in the next few minutes. Jake returned to his chair and sat down. He picked up his pen and held it over a piece of paper. I am going to write a report about this meeting. That report will determine how the council votes in 11 days. You can choose what I write in that report. What are my choices? Choice 1. I write that Warlord Zector came to this station to surrender himself and his followers to council justice. I write that he expressed regret for the violence of the past 3 years. I write that he asked for mercy for his crew and his people. Jake paused. If I write that report, the council will delay the military vote. You will be arrested and tried, but you will be treated as a prisoner of war, not as a terrorist. Your crew will be treated the same way. Your people will have a chance to choose new leaders who can negotiate a real peace. And choice 2? Choice 2. I write that Warlord Zector came to this station to threaten the peace negotiations. I write that he showed no interest in ending the violence. I write that diplomatic solutions have been exhausted and that military action is the only remaining option. Jake looked directly into Zector's yellow eyes. If I write that report, the council will vote for the military solution. The 24 fleets will destroy everything you have ever cared about. Your name will be remembered as the Krex leader who destroyed his own people through his pride and stupidity. Zector looked at his warriors. They were the finest fighters in the Krex military. They had followed him through 3 years of war. They had never questioned his orders or doubted his leadership. Now they were looking at him with hope in their eyes. Hope that he would make the choice that would let them see their families again. If I surrender, what happens to me personally? You will spend the rest of your life in prison. You will never command a ship again. You will never see your home world again. You will be remembered as the Krex leader who started a war he could not finish. And if I do not surrender, you will be dead in 31 days. So will everyone who has ever followed you. So will everyone who has ever supported you. And you will be remembered as the Krex leader who chose pride over the survival of his species. Zector,